Hello there everyone, welcome, and a very big welcome to all my new subscribers. Thank you so much for taking a chance on me. I don't post every week, but I hope what I do post you're going to really enjoy. So today we're going to work on watercolouring. So we're going to make 4 cards. So we'll do all the watercolours and then we'll leave them to dry, and I'll show you the samples I've made. This is the Stampin' Up watercolour paper. It's 5 by 7, so for this first one I've just cut that in half. Going to need a water brush. I am using the large, and you're going to need some clean water, and I use blocks to put my ink on. So the colours I'm going to start with are Highland Heather, Balmy Blue and Lost Lagoon. So instead of squeezing them, you can do that as well. I just have a lot of trouble with my thumbs, so I don't do that. So I'm just going to put a generous squishy amount of ink onto a block. Oh, you're also going to need some paper towel to help with cleanup. So with this one, we're going to add the water in just certain areas. Like we're just going to do 3 areas. So I'm going to do the top, the bottom, and then one in the center. Okay. Then when you add your ink, it's going to go where you have added your water. The more ink you add, the darker it's going to be. Okay, then I'm just going to rinse off and go to the next colour. And Lost Lagoon. Might put a bit more the Balmy Blue, make that a little bit thicker. Okay, now I'm going to leave it like that, maybe a little bit more up here. Okay, and then I'm just going to set that aside to air dry. Now you can use a heat tool to dry it off, but I find it moves all the water around and it pools, and it's just not the look I'm going for. So I'm just going to set that aside to air dry. And this is what I've created using that. So I've cut it out with the textured note dies. I've stamped using the beautiful butterflies, which are still available. Everything I checked was still available in Australia, that is, when just before I started making this video. So these you can watercolour, use the same ink. I've just used markers. And then here we have some holographic resin dots, and I thought these were a good choice because they do take up a bit of the colour from underneath. Now you could, I've chosen the Highland Heather here, but you could make a number of these cards and change the look of them by using a different cardstock to back that with. Okay, so first thing, clean up. So now we're going to move on to mixing some of our inks together. We're going to do the same technique of adding the water, and we can squeeze a bit out here, and we're just going to add the water centrally on this piece. Okay, so there's plenty of water. We're going to use Granny Apple Green and Azure Afternoon. And then I'm just going to mix it. And then you see you're going to get slightly different shades here. And it's just going to go out into the areas where the water is, and it's not going to go any further than that. Okay. I'll put a bit of green down here. Okay. And again, we're going to set that aside to dry. Here's the first card that I've used. So I've used the Layered Thoughts stamp set. Now I've used Azure Afternoon and the Granny Apple Green cardstock because I wanted to bring out the colours so they've not as bright when they've dried into the watercolour cardstock. I don't know if you can see the difference between these two. This one I left to air dry, and this one I patted off the excess ink with paper towel. And I thought it really made it more muted because you're taking a lot of the colour out rather than if you leave it to sit, see how much brighter it is there. But I added the coloured cardstock behind it to really bring out the colours that I've used in the inks. You can have a really wonderful time with watercolours and just using your inks and just having a little play, because it really doesn't matter. You're just going to be adding inks in together. They're going to blend. The only thing that doesn't go well together is red and green. It does go muddy in the colour. So I've left the Granny Apple Green, and what I wanted to do this time was do something Christmassy, so we're going to do some greens. Maybe I'll wipe a bit of that blue off there and add a bit more, because I'm going to do the full 5x7 with this one. So we're going to wet the whole lot. And using watercolour paper allows you to add lots of water, and this really helps with the ability for the inks to spread around. So I'm going to start doing it in sort of areas of 3. This is just something I've found that seems to a good starting place to do it in groups of 3. And you can add a bit more water. And you can see how when the water separates out a bit, some of the blue's coming out. Right. We need a bit more of this green here. And there's no real pattern, it's just about having a play. If you feel that there is too much ink, so I'm going to just add a little bit more of that nice bright green. Don't want it really dark. Needs a bit down here. So we're just making sure that we've really saturated it with ink and water. And you're going to get a different look when that, it's going to dry. So I will show you what we're going to do with this one. So we made card panels for the first couple of card designs, but this time we're going to do some die cutting. And this is what I've created with this one. So this is using the decorative trees. So there's dies in here, loads and loads of dies. So I've got the soft green glitter paper behind this one. I think I've used garden green, yes, for this one. I've used the stamp on this one. So you can see, the variation that you're going to get from your watercolour. So you can choose on that's why it's good to do a bigger piece, so that you can choose the areas that you want to use for your die cut. Now, the next one that we're going to do is using some masking paper. So we're going to half a 5x7 piece. Now I'm going to reuse my masking paper because you can use it a couple of times. And the colours we're going to use are crushed curry, pumpkin pie, Cajun Craze and early espresso. So we're going to try and make a bit of a scene. So I'll put it in the order that I'm going to. Might need another block. So I'm going to have a sun. So just make sure it's put down nice and not sticking up. If it's sticking up, then cut another piece. I think I used 1.5 inch circle there. Same thing. Or I might, before I do that, I might get my inks ready. Clean water all over. Going to start at the bottom. I'm going to squeeze a bit of water into the Cajun Craze. And let it mix in. And I'm going to put a little bit up the top. So you can see it's a bit of a sunsetty type scene. And I didn't really want too many sort of lines. I mixed it in a little bit. Okay. Could probably do with a little bit more darken that up down the bottom. Okay. Now I am going to dry this so that we can do the next step. So I'll do that off camera and then come back. So I've got that dry. Just going to peel that piece off. Then I've kept this one here. It's a bit buckled because it's had water on it. But if I get that, there we go. Right, I'm going to add a bit of water to my Cajun Craze. I haven't added water to like we did with the other pieces. I want to try and get a really good depth of colour. So plenty of colour there. Okay, then I'm going to let that dry on its own. You're not going to remove the mask until it's dried properly. But here is my sample that I've made. using the textured notes. I added the pop of white cardstock so that it lifted off the black, and then I've done that on the inside. So creating scenes is another way to create beautiful cards from watercolours. So you can see this is about half dry. I'll clean up and I'll bring back my cards so that you can see them all together. It's messy, but I think it's very rewarding to see the end results. And it didn't take too long a time. The longest time is the drying, because I do like to leave them air dry. This one not so much, because the water's not pooling, so I might, yeah, so we can fit them all in. There we have some watercolour techniques. There's lots more that you can do. It's just a matter of having a bit of a play. You know, I started one evening and then I got up the next day still quite motivated and just kept going. So I hope you've enjoyed today's card making session. If you'd like to watch more of my videos and you like the content, hit that bell so you get notified when I've got something come up, and subscribe if you're new. I would love to have you be part of my crafting community. Leave a comment. There might be techniques that you want me to investigate and have a go at, and that would be great too. So have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Here's a video that I've done previously that you might like to watch.